All right, thanks for joining, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. Glad to have you today. Great session, great panel scheduled for today as we get through and get to discussing kind of everything outside of our sports as far as ordering goes. Like I mentioned, a great panel ahead of us. Just a quick couple things on our USG side of things. As you're going through your stuff, please let know we have our Clean Out for a Cause program still open. We're nearing 900,000 pounds, trying to hit that by the end of the year. And then our LRD surplus, we call it, our online consignment sale piece is open and active, which has been going great so far. And just know our scholarships and academy are open. We have an academy starting here in a few weeks, and the scholarship for the fall is open for application. So please spread that news to your student managers. That would be great. As a reminder, first and last name, school, organization, district, certified, non-certified is kind of a mandatory thing for us to help track attendance. Also to keep these CEUs for these meetings going, we need to make sure that people have their cameras on and are paying attention so we can make sure that we continue to get our CEUs via AEMA. At the end, if you're new to some of these, the QR code will be posted at the end for you guys to have and get credit for this. So while we're on session here, please make sure you grab your phone, log in, get those cameras ready for the end so you can grab those CEUs. Here's the upcoming sessions. After today, we'll get into the professional level, which will really be a great session. And this calendar takes us through the rest of the year here. Katie, do you have anything to add to the mentor-mentee program?
I have a couple things. Yeah. So mentorship and mentorship partnerships went out a little while ago. If I did not get to you, let me know. We didn't have as many mentors sign up. So I know some people have reached out about their students and I wasn't able to do those people. So if you want to be a mentor or a mentee, please reach out to me so that I can get those going for you, especially at different levels. We have a lot of people at like Division I signing up to be mentors. We don't have a lot of people at Division II and Division III to be mentors, and we'd really like to see that involvement as well. And the other big piece that we're starting, it'll go live next month, is a shared drive. So through Google Drive, we're going to have a shared drive where you can little bits and pieces of things we talk about. So like for today, we're talking about donors. I have a donor form that I make everyone fill out before they can request two requested donor items. So I'm going to drop that in the shared drive. So if you want to use that for your school or take pieces from it, you're welcome to. So there's going to be some more information about that coming out later, but just kind of keep an eye out for the shared drive stuff.
Thanks, Katie. Today's panel, before we get started, do some introductions. Dom from Wichita State, thanks for joining with us. Kyle's joining us from West Virginia. Nathan joining us from North Dakota State. And Matthew joining us from Boise State again. So thank you for our panelists. And we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Guys, panelists, I'll stick to the order here and kind of weave our way back and forth. So without further ado, we'll get started. Just real quick, we'll start with Dominic. Start with some introductions. Where's your equipment manager journey at right now? Obviously, just introduced that, but where have you been? What experiences and kind of why are you willing to help today? That'd be a great thing to share. So, Dominic, we'll start with you, then go Kyle.
Cool. What's up, y'all? My name is Dom Elsner. I'm our Director of Equipment Services here at Wichita State University. I started as a student manager over at Duke University. Like all equipment guys, I majored in economics with a minor in computer science. But I worked under Wes Pickle over at Duke, fell in love with it, knew I wanted to make a career out of it. I took an internship at the University of Texas at San Antonio back in 2019, worked my way up to full-time assistant, got a job over at Stanford, was there for about 2 years. And now I got to Wichita here in April, so a little fresh, but absolutely loving it. I love being an equipment guy just because watching all of these kids grow up, whether they're student athletes, student managers, and just being a part of this sort of small athletics family. Like, we all go through it from time to time. Like, let's not pretend that we don't. And having just this small family that's really supportive in doing what we love, like setting this stuff up, is absolutely amazing.
Awesome. Thanks, Dom. Appreciate that. And Kyle.
Yeah, hello, I'm Kyle, director of equipment here at West Virginia, and I got everything but football. So, no, I got into it. I'm homegrown here. I had a guy, Bubba Smith, who ran the room for 40 years, 43, I think, and started as student manager for women's basketball. Worked my way up. I took a minor league gig as a clubhouse guy here in town when they went to a single A short season team. And while that was going on, they built a brand new baseball stadium, and he said they needed someone up there, and he hired me full time. And I've been here the last 10 years. So worked my way up as that, and then, director of basketball, and oversaw baseball too. And then now got it all but football. And I kind of got into it. I thought I wanted to coach. And then there's so many variables you can't control when it comes to recruiting and dealing with kids. And thought the greatest thing and maybe stay close to it was to do equipment, have something where you can have some goals and some stuff you can actually control and make sure it get done, and still be a part of it. That's why I got into it. That's why I love it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it. Nate, we'll go over to you.
I'm Nate Beerle at North Dakota State University. I started here at NDSU in 2010 as a student manager for the football program. After I graduated in 2013, they hired me on as the assistant for football, and I was the head baseball equipment manager at that time. In 2016, I took over as the head football equipment manager, and I was the head football manager equipment guy until just July 1st of this year. As of July 1st, we hired a new football guy, and I'm director of all equipment facilities and operations for our entire athletic department. So now I have all sports underneath me with our staff and equipment. My biggest thing is the first day I showed up to practice as a student manager, I just loved being on the practice field, loved being around it. I've enjoyed it every day since then. With leaving football, I don't get to go to football practice anymore, but now I have an excuse to go to every other sports practice and get to be a part of those. Love being around the athletes, the coaches, all those things, seeing around the facilities.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. And Matthew, we'll finish up with you.
I started as a student manager at Arizona for their baseball team, and then moved into equipment my senior year, then was a grad assistant at Northern Arizona for a couple of years there. Then after that, went full-time at Utah, was there for 2 years, loved it, kind of just kept falling into equipment. Didn't think that's what I was going to do full-time forever, but I loved it, and it's been great to me. Worked at Cal for a year, and then just kind of kept moving my way up. I was the head equipment manager for Olympic sports at William & Mary, and then landed here at Boise State a year ago, July, as the assistant AD for equipment. So it's a great job that has been good to me, and not going to say it has great work-life balance, but that kind of comes with the territory, and find ways to balance your time in the off season. But it's good stuff. Love it.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. All right, let's just jump into our next question here. We'll come back to you, Matt. What is your involvement in ordering for camps, and when do you typically place these orders for your different groups that are doing camps on campus?
Yeah, so we don't, on the Olympic side, we don't order a lot for camps. We will coordinate the printing, but a lot of our teams will kind of do their own thing, whether they're set up through their own LLC and we're not supposed to help them, or if they are under the university and they just kind of have their own way of doing things because it comes out of a different budget that's not part of the general equipment budget. So there's some teams will order, like a generic Gildan tee. We're not ordering Nike for anybody except for our men's basketball, like elite camp. Then we'll get kind of Nike reversible practice jerseys. Those we kind of just do the month or two beforehand because those are available at once, and we don't know quantities or size needs for that level of a camp. But I know on our football side, they do a lot of Nike future orders. That was, I think, last month was that window for camp shirts to show up in this coming April. So it's 8 months out when we are doing Nike stuff, but a lot of times it's month before just generic cotton shirts for camps.
Thanks, Matt. And we'll go to Nate.
So on the Olympic sports side, our equipment staff is not very involved. From an ordering standpoint, we did have some issues with the coaches using different vendors, unlicensed vendors and stuff. So we have had to set guidelines for those coaches. So now they need to get in contact with the equipment staff to get connected with the right vendors and license people to get logos and everything as far as that goes. On the football side, I've typically done all the ordering for our camps. Again, with them being Nike, with them being a lot bigger, I've kind of always taken that on as a responsibility. We have about 3,000 kids that come to our camps. So between the camp shirts we're giving out, camp store stuff we're selling, I've done all the ordering for that. Done it through Nike, through our BSN rep, just to make sure it's all on point with everything we need to be there.
What follow-up question for you? As far as your Olympic sports, keeping them on, you mentioned putting together a document for them. How is that document enforced, or what is the communication back and forth on that?
So we started with all the sports supervisors within the athletic department to make sure their head coaches, whatever assistant coach is doing the ordering, knows here's the list of vendors that you can use. You know, like our softball programs got really good of after the first year of doing it, they just knew they could here's our contact at BSN to order all this stuff. Other times it's always making sure the sports supervisor knows, hey, when volleyball is getting camp shirts, are they using a vendor? Are they using appropriate logos? Our senior admin really had to step in because some of the sports were really using logos that weren't university approved, weren't athletic department approved from unlicensed vendors. At the same time, like with our BSN contract, I don't know how it is other places, but if you spend more with BSN, you hit graduators to get more comp dollars. And as they were using other vendors, we were losing out on a lot of comp dollars that we could potentially get. So in the head coaches meetings, it got addressed. Every sports supervisor has to be informed of when you're ordering the camp gear on that side, who's it's going through. And then that's kind of, the equipment room has become the point of contact to ensure all those things are being followed, even though the assistant coaches are placing quantities and picking the items themselves.
It's awesome. Thanks for the detail. Kyle, we'll go to you.
We do all the ordering for the camps. So whether it's camp store or the tea they give out at camp or the trophies, it all comes through our department. We've kind of taken control of it just because kind of we're talking about with trademark and licensing, making sure it's the right logo and stuff. But we also have to pay royalties through our trademark and licensing on every shirt, even though it's for camp, because even if they give it away, they have to pay the royalty on what they do sell. So because it's even if it's like an LLC they run outside, we still have to make sure that's paid for. And that's something that we take care of to work through our vendors and make sure it happens. Just another question here. And as far as like working camps and doing all that stuff, we do that too, a little bit here and there, but for the most part, not a lot.
And are those staff that you're working with, are they filling out an order form? Are you sitting down with them directly, or what's the time frame on that?
We sit down directly, probably about a month and a half before their camp. Normally, like we slow down here, and about April is whenever camp stuff starts kind of picking up. I start reaching out to gymnastics orders a lot. They do a lot of camps, so they need a lot. Men's, women's basketball, typical camp store shirt, but then they also do a bunch of stuff for their store that they sell. So I'll sit down with each staff and be like, what are you looking for? Do you want to go Nike? Do you want to do a Gildan cheap tee just because you're trying to make some money? And then once we have an idea of how many they want, then we go over designs and what they're trying to put on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it. Dom, we'll come finish up with you.
So we do it really similar to the way Kyle does it. For us here at Wichita State, every staff is different. Our men's basketball team wanted to do an Under Armour cotton tee for their camp tee, but obviously our tennis team had a huge camp, but they just wanted to use Gildan. So we try to sort of sit down with each staff and make sure that we're all on the same page, because similar to everyone else, we've had licensing issues, we've had trademark issues, and to keep everyone to make sure they're using their essentially pre-approved logos. Some of the assistant coaches order on their own, but our biggest rule is just make sure that we're CC'd on the email. That way, if anyone asks, we have a record, we know what's going on. And if something's flying off the rails, we can address it as needed. I've only been here 5 months, but luckily nothing has really gone crazy. But being in the loop with everything being ordered has been huge for us. We typically sit down around beginning of May to go over camp dates because our camps go as late as July, which is really fun when box season starts happening. But that gives us enough time to go over logos, go over designs, and meet with each staff and figure out what they want to do. This past year, we actually had one team. We had just a huge surplus of student manager T-shirts for our women's basketball team. So they just used those as camp T-shirts because just why not save some money? So.
Awesome. Thanks, Dom. All right, let's move on to the next question here. We'll come back right to you, Dom. Do you work camps? What do you expect to get paid, or how do you work out compensation for your camps? And I guess, how do you manage? We talk about work-life balance, man. Matt mentioned that earlier. How are you managing expectations and hours during these camps? And I know this is a hot topic for everybody here, so it'd be great to get some feedback. So, Dom, we'll start with you.
I do work camps, and I've been really lucky throughout my career that I haven't even had to ask to be compensated. When my staffs at Stanford, my staff at UTSA, my staff here at Wichita asked me to work camps, it was under the assumption that they were going to pay me somehow, some way, money, same way they pay an assistant coach, so on and so forth. So super lucky, and because I'm getting paid, I really don't mind doing whatever they need me to do. It's typically just sitting at a table selling gear or issuing out T-shirts, and then essentially running around the court field doing quite literally whatever is possibly needed. Camps are typically at a slower point. Like our basketball camp here in July, our basketball staff knew that like I wasn't going to be able to work it. It's not the end of the world. So they had a couple student managers and a couple additional GAs running the camp store, running the T-shirt issuing, so on and so forth. But for those early June camps, I'm happy to go above and beyond because I don't know, maybe I'm bad at saying no, and I'll be the first to admit that I am. But I really like our staffs that I've worked with in my career. And when I don't have a lot going on, it's either off season, sit at home and relaxing, or coming into work anyway and prepping for the season. So I don't mind the extra hours personally, but I'm also a 27-year-old single kid. So it's a little different than most.
Awesome. Thanks, Dom. Appreciate it. Kyle?
I don't work like camp. The only camp I've ever worked is I used to be the director of our fantasy camp for men's basketball. So I'd run it from the start, all the stuff in between, the whole weekend. But as far as working the camp, like sitting at a table selling gear, we never did that. I would get compensated for running the fantasy camp, and then I would get compensated for the ordering and stuff too, just handling all the logistics stuff through men's basketball. All the other sports I never got paid for. They kind of just do, keep it to themselves. I don't know if they've ever been brought up to them, but it's also one of those things where it's not that much of an additional workload that I feel like I need to be compensated just for ordering and making stuff printed. At some point, maybe it is, but until it gets to that point and it's a pain, then I'm not too worried about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. And Nate, we'll go to you.
So our basketball camps, our staff helps a little bit, but it's all usually during the workday and more so set up organization facility wise. So they've never really been compensated from the basketball camp just because it's kind of within their normal workday workflow. Football camp, we always have a number of equipment staff that work football camp. Just because our camps are so big, we use 4 different fields spread out across campus. So we usually have a equipment manager at each field for any helmets, shoulder pads, equipment needs that go on. And all of our equipment staff is paid for working those football camps. Managing expectations, I'd say, we always meet with the camp director at the start of like, who's at what location, what do you need from us? We usually have 1 or 2 that will stay from until the camp's over. Where they're doing touch games and stuff like that, we'll still have equipment staff around, and we usually send like 2 of them home just when they're not in helmet and pads. But kind of during camp, it's always been an all hands on deck mentality, and it does get to be a lot of hours there in the middle of June. But our football program's been very good about doing a very good job of compensating the equipment staff very well for those hours worked.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it. And we'll finish up with Matt.
Here at Boise State, the only equipment staff that works camps is football and soccer. So our soccer equipment guy is actually the director of operations for the soccer team as well as their equipment manager. So he works the camps and gets paid for that separately. Our football staff and student managers, GAs, they're all working the football camps as well. But as far as the basketball camp, softball, tennis, all of that, we don't have any day-to-day involvement beyond ordering. I guess we order like the trophy balls or whatever award things they want done. But we have not worked the actual camps day-to-day here, but at previous schools I have. So yeah, it's not I guess as far as managing the expectations, there's not a ton of extra. I'm already in the office when they're doing the camps as it is. So they might want some, uniforms to set up a locker if they're going to walk the kids through the locker room to, kind of show off the facilities, but it's pretty much during work hours anyways.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. We'll come back to you with this next question. What trends are you seeing on campus when it comes to swag, specifically around this kind of extra type of gear? What types of awards, camp shirts? We kind of already hinted towards this. Are you ordering, and how have you seen the changes? I know we got a range of time in the profession, but how have you guys seen the changes happen over the years? So Matt, we'll come to you first, and then we'll work our way through.
Yeah, so some of our teams will do champion shirts, for some of their team ones, or individual swag pieces, whatever those may be for individual sport camps, like if it's tennis or something like that. The most common thing that we see our teams want custom ball for their championship team, whether it's basketball, football, what have you. So we typically will just use a generic ball from Big Game and have Bradley mock something up and have a couple different ones ready for each of the camps that we're having. But that's we're not doing like medals or rings or anything like that for camps. It's predominantly just like the milestone painted basketballs and footballs.
Awesome. And we'll go back to you, Nate.
We've done the Camp Champ shirts a lot over the years. Some of them have gone away. It kind of depends each sport, who's the camp director and who's running the camp, and his staff's turnover, kind of what whoever takes over the camp wants from year to year. Custom balls have become a much more popular one in recent years. I would say as far as the swag piece and even more custom balls, it's become like everyone running camp stores. Hats have become really popular in our camp stores for people to sell, because whether you're running a youth camp or a high school camp, they kind of just get adjustable, and parents buy them, the athletes buy them, the kids buy them. And then all of our camps usually do an autograph session at the end for especially the youth camps. So like white panel basketballs, white panel footballs, that mini helmets for football has become a big thing, that when the camp ends and they're going to do the autograph session, instead of them going out and buying their own stuff, they're just buying it right on site from us. So that's been one of our best sellers and one of our biggest things in our camp stores is autograph stuff.
That's great, Nate. I like that. Kyle, we'll go to you.
As far as like swag and all that stuff changing over the years, it's nothing true like crazy. We do like trophies, typical trophies for basketball camps. I don't think gymnastics or the soccer camps do anything like that. I think the biggest difference is the amount of stuff they want to sell in a camp store. Over when I first started, it was like one or two options. Like whenever Nike would offer you your camp shirt, you could get it white and gray. Now they want to order a separate, like a Gildan or A4 of every color we have and 2 or 3 different designs. And it's just became a lot more of that more than anything else. That's the only big change over time I've seen.
Thanks, Kyle. Dom, we'll go to you.
So for me, I can agree with Kyle that since I've started, it's been we want more than 2 shirts to sell. We want this, that, whatever. And every camp that I've worked has sort of turned into a sort of backup surplus sale for each sport, which is kind of nice to help get rid of old inventory. But when it comes to swag, I've never really had to order anything crazy. I think the craziest thing I had to order was when I was at Stanford. I worked with our men's soccer program, and instead of doing trophies for the winning team or whatever, they wanted to do one giant trophy that they could keep and all age divisions could sort of take a picture with. So it looked like a huge replica trophy, and it was honestly kind of nice. And it literally is just stored in one of our equipment storage facilities until camp season because they host 6, 7, 8 camps. So that's the biggest piece of swag I think I've had to order. But outside of that, it's just been literally just t-shirts on my end, maybe a couple mini trophies here and there.
It's great feedback. Yeah, that big trophy would be a great photo op for everybody. So thanks for sharing, Dom. We'll jump over to the next question here and we'll start back with you, Dom. How does ordering for donor groups? This will be a fun one because this has changed over, especially the last 5 years. Donor groups and individual donors work at your institution. Does it differ? And who do you work with to complete the ordering? Because I think every campus is a little bit different there. And what are the expectations, involvement from you and your staff in that process? So, Dom, we'll start with you on this donor group piece, and we'll work our way through.
So for us, it doesn't matter if it's one donor, a 5-piece donor group, or I actually just got an email last week about 20 to 24 people that I need to get gear for. Essentially, our development staff or our athletic director will shoot me an email saying, "Hey, can we make this happen?" But without the can, obviously, let's make it happen. And I'm sort of told to get them some good pieces. The way I've always done it is we don't order for donor groups. We sort of use our surplus gear for them instead. So it sort of comes through our team allotments. The way I typically tend to do that is year one. Obviously, I'll use our men's basketball team here, for example. I order all of our nice men's basketball staff pieces. Year two, obviously, they get new pieces. So it goes onto the donor shelf for when these inevitable, oh my gosh, this guy just paid for all of our graduate assistants for our men's basketball team. Can we give them a couple good pieces? That's $120,000. Yeah, I can give you a $100 jacket. So I'll take from that. And then year three is sort of when that gear goes over to the surplus sale. So it's sort of a life cycle for all of our gear. That way, we're getting the best use out of it as we can. Because no offense to the fans here in Wichita, I would much rather have the guy donating $100,000 and get a couple nice jackets than someone getting it at a garage sale for $25. So that's how I have always done it, and I've done that the same way at Stanford, the same way at UTSA. And the expectations are literally just get it done. Like there's not really a like we make miracles happen all the time. Getting something for a big time donor is not one of the harder miracles that we've had to work. So
I can see that being a t-shirt, actually. Equipment managers, we get miracles done. Love it. We'll go back over to Kyle.
So our MAC department, which is our donation people, they have their own Nike allotment. So anything like it's a big deal where they're trying to put on a function, they'll come down and order it like a month or two ahead of time. But as far as like, say someone that pays for your GAs, like Dom said, they'll just come down to the equipment room. So if it's a specific sport, they'll go to them first, and then they'll come to the equipment room, our Olympic room, because I have a huge inventory here. We have our own big allotment to cover that deal. So we'll just give them what we have there as like their fill-in pieces. So we're never ever in a situation where we're like, oh crap, we don't have anything for them. We have my room here, and normally basketball has some good items I can pull from too.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. And Nate.
We do, like they said, we always have extra stuff that for individual donors from time to time that we can just pull out of our surplus and give those donors. The other thing we've done is the development staff has their own budget that, you know, everyone in the development department is going to get 2 polos. They'll always have a list of some extra donors that they want to get the same polo that the development staff is getting. So we'll include those donors on there. Another big thing we've done with our Team Makers Booster Group is we set up basically like a team shop for them. And that link specifically went out to the, you know, everyone that's a member of that booster group. So they have a choice of 4 or 5 different items, you know, that we set up with BSN that they could then order whatever they want. as part of that. So instead of doing a group order, they're all going on purchasing it themselves, getting it shipped to their home wherever they're at, but they're all getting the same items. If they're at our events, they can all be wearing Team Maker stuff that looks uniform with other team makers.
Right. Nate, follow up on that. Is that stuff typically exclusive to that group, or is that stuff that you're gonna find maybe in the team store as well?
It's usually exclusive to that group. We usually put, you know, it would have like an NDC logo and then it would specifically say team makers under it. That link is only given out to members of that group. So it does become very specific to them. And we usually try and choose some different items that maybe aren't even like the items you would see our coaches or our staff wearing. We try to get some different polos, some different quarter zips in there than what you would see in stores or on the sidelines or game day.
Great, thanks, Nate. And Matt, we'll finish up with you.
Yeah, so what Nate said about the team store, that's not something we have currently done or previously done at Boise State, but it is something with our new contract that we will be implementing starting next school year. We'll have kind of a mix of some generic items just so they can get it at that discounted rate, but we're also going to have some of those custom pieces. So we have our general group, that's all of our donors, and then we have a certain level, you know, like 6-figure and above are in a separate tier or separate group. So we'll have stuff that will say like Lyle Smith Society under the graphics for that. Another thing we also try to do for those types of donors is make coaches gear available. So like if it's something, this is what our head coach is wearing on the sideline for this game, we'll try to make those specific pieces available to those certain donor groups because they always want to have what the coaches have. We do try to coordinate that with the bookstore to some extent, but there will be a greater offering for those donors. We do a lot as far as points of contact. It can be the athletic director that'll call me and say, hey, so-and-so is coming to campus today and I need something to give them. Any one of our, you know, senior leadership team members. But we do have a guy that oversees that Lyle Smith Society that we will do specific orders every year. They have their own budget for that based on what they're fundraising. So they'll kind of, a new thing they started this year is they had me find 5 pieces that were available and nice. And then they send out, like I made essentially a Google form where they could pick, you know, the 3 pieces that they want, put their sizes, and then get all that ordered in custom for them. We actually just placed an order last week for all white Air Force Ones, and we have a vendor that's going to custom paint them our colors and put like the donor's initials into them. And so there's a lot of different things you can do depending on the donor levels. But that's everything runs through equipment for that. It doesn't matter whether it's an individual person that needs an old jersey or if it's a, you know, the group of our top donors.
Thanks, Matt. Well, that custom shoe order, that'd be a handful to manage. So I'm sure everyone's nervous about getting that pushed across their desk right now.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing.
The other part about working with donors is most of them come from an expectation of being catered to. So it's hard to give donors timelines. So we had told them, you know, we need to know your shoe size, you know, by this date. It was 4 weeks out. We got the order placed, got them all painted and paid for. And then we had 2 or 3 just yesterday or the day before send us a message and say, hey, we need to put our order in. Here's the 2 sizes or 3 sizes we need. So just having that understanding that donors operate on their own timeline, and it's kind of that customer's always right, and just trying to service them and do our part to foster those relationships.
Awesome. Yeah, great advice, Matt. Let's jump over to the next question. How do you give out, I guess we kind of already talked about some of you guys, how you manage your surplus gear, but how are you giving it out? Is there a process to it? I mean, I know we're getting phone calls, but is there forms? Are you tracking how much is going out? Things like that. Does it all need to be separate? And we already kind of talked about development, but if you guys could dive in a little bit deeper of how you're communicating and working with those development guys and gals as far as the requests are concerned, that'd be great. So Matt, we'll bounce back to you and work our way through.
Yeah. So the pieces like the shoes or those 3 or 4 pieces that we would order every year as a group, we don't track any of that once it's ordered. So, or it'll come in, we'll give it to the donors. They put it in little gift boxes that they got customed and ship them out to the donors. So that stuff is not a big deal as far as giving it out, but any of our on-hand gear that we are giving out, everything is in Teamworks inventory. So if our athletic director calls and says, hey, I need a 2X piece of men's basketball, like, their travel suit, that we will scan out in Teamworks. And we just have one profile under staff that's called giveaway. And then when we issue it, we'll put a comment with the donor's name or who requested it. So I put, athletic director request for John Doe. So there's not a profile in inventory for each of our donors. But we can pull a transaction report from Teamworks for everything issued to giveaway, and it'll show comments. So if we ever need to see specifically who got what, we can do that. But it's more just tracking how many items we are giving out in total, the volume, the dollar amount. But it's not, there's no paperwork, like they don't have to submit a form that says they want this. It's a text, an email, a conversation in the hallway. We just make sure we track it on our inventory system when it goes out.
Great. Good advice, Matt. Thank you. Nate, we'll go to you.
So we do have a certain list of donors that within our team budgets and our team allotments that, like when I was ordering all the gear for the football staff, I knew that there was these 4 people we were also ordering in addition for that each year we're going to get that. Our wrestling program has a certain list of 2 donors. We definitely know that those upper echelon donors that are giving specifically to those sports, we've kind of over the years developed that to, hey, when you place the order for the coaches, you're going to get 2 extra for these people, just because they're such big supporters of the program. And then on top of that, similar to what Matt was talking about, like in our inventory system, we have, we can check it out to giveaway. We actually break it up by our booster group leader, our development leader, and our AD. They each have a separate giveaway. So we know like which person is giving it away when we track it at the end of the year. But again, most of it's coming out of surplus, outside of the 5 to 8 items maybe that are coming out of our allotment that's budgeted for every year that we just know ahead of time are going to this group of donors so that they can match, the football coaches.
Great. Thanks, Nate. Kyle, we'll go to you.
Yeah, so anything we give out that they order out of their team order, like say the future order, that none of that gets tracked. It's just part of their allotment. They're allowed to buff those numbers how they want. And for men's basketball for years, I buff those, knowing the same deal. Like we got 10 big time guys that are always around that coach is going to want to take care of. So we're going to make sure they're good. If anything's different that they want to order extra. So for instance, our men's soccer team did a golf outing at the country club here, and they wanted to order polos, giveaway bags, stuff for that event. That's something that we bill it. It goes to their foundation account and gets pulled from there. And that's something when I go in on the back end to do the, we're going to say cleanup of the stuff here in our system, I have the codes to build their account for the foundation. And then the other thing, one of the reasons we've kind of stayed away from an inventory system is kind of what you guys are talking about. One of our admins brought it up to us, a couple years back about going to an inventory system. And one of the big things that held it up was how do you as a state school keep tabs on the stuff you give away and why you're giving it away? Because even though we know we have to for donors and stuff like that, in their eyes, that's not how it works, and they should be paying for it. That's been one of the reasons we've stayed away.
Thanks, Kyle. And Don, we'll finish up with you.
So for us here at Wichita State, we have 3 separate donor groups per se that have their own budget. Our SASO group, our Battery Club group, and our Coaches Club group, and they have their own budget. We'll order gear for them once they get me sizes, and it'll have a SASO logo, a Battery Club logo, a Coaches Club logo on it. But outside of that, everything we do is sort of through team's allotment or team's budget. We also don't have an inventory system, and I know I haven't been here very long. So what I've been starting with is this fiscal year, sort of keeping track of how much stuff we've been giving away, just so our development team and our athletic director knows that, hey, this is all this inventory that's coming out directly from our team's budgets. Because at the end of the day, I do like that budget to be for them, or at least if I'm giving away a bunch of baseball stuff, let's hope baseball is getting a bunch of donations. You know what I mean? So that way it holds everyone else accountable of where the gear is coming from to who it's going to and to what that gift is used for. We're beginning to transition to Teamworks inventory as well here. And what my plan is to have just a sort of development profile that you can see what goes out to everyone, and then we'll just make a note on the issuance with the name of who it's going to.
Awesome. Thanks, Dom. Appreciate it. Jump over to our next question here. What is your process for items given to people outside of the department? And we talked about if there's any forms or procedures. Is there any greater detail? I know we kind of covered a little bit in the last question, but is there any greater detail you guys able to provide on that? Dom, we'll jump over to you. I know you talked about getting Teamworks installed here, but anything else that you are aware of?
Yeah. With us right now, we don't really have any forms or policies. It's just when our assistant AD of development, our assistant AD of revenue generation, our athletic director himself, or anyone on senior admin sort of calls me, emails me, comes down. Heck, before this meeting came down, our CFO was like, "Hey, I have this donor. Can I get some T-shirts for him?" And I was like, "Oh, perfect timing. Like, small world." Took care of him. Wrote down who asked for it, and wrote down who it was issued out to. And so that's sort of my forms, policies, procedure. It's nothing fancy. It's literally just a Word document titled donors, just so I can keep an accurate record of what I've given out. And you can put a rough estimate for a athletics tee versus a tech tee versus a knockout tee, and then just put a rough estimate on how much it costs, and then let it ride and go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate. Or sorry, Dom. Nick, Kyle, we'll go back to you.
So if we do a donation to, say, a golf outing, charity thing, there's a form that they have to fill out and has to be approved through our compliance office. As far as like policy and procedures, the only really thing we have is if senior admin comes to ask for something, we do it. Anyone below that point, it's got to go through whoever your kind of supervisor of that department is. And if they're like, yeah, it's going to the right thing, let's do it. Like, for instance, our academics will get some autograph balls for, like, they'll do a special captain for men's basketball games. And someone in the academic departments where that they're trying to honor and show that's helped them get something done. And that's about the only time where it's any different, where it's like, yeah, let's do it.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. Nate, we'll go to you.
Kind of similar to what Kyle said. We have a form for the compliance office that has to be filled out if you're going to have some sort of benefit or something like that, and you're looking for a donation request for that. But as far as donors, boosters, anyone like that that's getting gear, usually it's, senior admin, anyone asking, we kind of give to them whatever they need. The other thing we've done is kind of hats have become a big thing. We try and get each sport or each head coach gets a certain number of hats, and those kind of become like, we don't necessarily track who those goes to. It's just, the basketball coach has 10 hats that he can give out to whoever he wants. The baseball coach has got 10 hats to give out to whoever. Maybe the football coach gets 40 hats to give out to, whether it's former players, donors, however they want to use those. That's kind of a big thing. But outside of the compliance form for if you're doing some sort of benefit where you're going to be auctioning it off, raffling it off, we really don't have anything that needs to be filled out other than someone way above me giving the okay.
That usually keeps it safe. Matt, we'll go to you.
Yeah, so kind of similar to before, we don't have any forms or anything that we fill out. I do like how, I think Nathan was saying that they have different profiles to see how much each person is giving away. We have that for each team. So we have like our one giveaway account in Teamworks for anything admin's giving out. And then we just put the name of who did it in the note section. But then we also have a giveaway account for each team. So men's basketball, women's basketball, so we can see how much each team is giving out and compare it to what they're bringing in. The one thing that we did different for our men's basketball team this year is they gave out so much stuff over the last 2 years that they were impacting their on-hand inventory levels for their own team needs. So we actually ordered a separate order just for giveaway stuff, just some blank blue t-shirts that we got screen printed, and some blank polos for when they want something nicer than a t-shirt. We got those logoed, and those are just sitting on a shelf ready to give out for men's basketball requests. That way they're not taking shirts that we need for transfers that come in the spring, guys that are coming in the summer before we get our new gear. So trying to have some extra stuff on a separate order so it doesn't actually impact, kind of like some of the other guys we're talking about. You know, we have X amount of hats for our baseball coach to give away. So we moved into that model for men's basketball this year. So, but again, equipment's like across the board, it's not a one size fits all. So trying to find what works for each individual team's needs is the fun part to juggle there.
Thanks, Matt. So any other departments on campus do you guys typically order for through athletics? I mean, I know we've talked about the bookstores or anything else that you guys are ordering for. Is it direct access or is it something that you're working through someone else in the department? Also, I know some of you probably do an order for people like the president or high schools, principals, chaplains, team doctors, things like that. How are you guys including those guys in those orders, or are you including them in your orders outside of the department? So Matt, we'll come back to you and work our way back through.
Yeah, so we order an all staff kit here. You know, every staff member, you know, they're going to get a short sleeve, long sleeve polo, travel suit, backpack, shoe, whatever. We include our 7 team doctors, our team chaplains for basketballs and football, and then our president's office. So they'll get everything that our department staff gets. And then we will also have departments across campus that want to order stuff. So for example, our arena is not owned by athletics. It's an auxiliary owned by the university. So they want to order Nike stuff so that they all have matching stuff, and they order through us in order to get a better price and get that. Under the new contract, they're going to probably be doing that through BSN, where we'll set up team stores. I know at previous schools I've had essentially a BSN account for like our business college or our engineering college to allow those teams to still buy Nike product. It's at a lesser discount than what we in athletics get, but it still counts towards the athletic spend number, which helps with those allotment bonuses and kickbacks from BSN. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but having a separate account set up through BSN, even if you're a direct school, you can usually still get a BSN account set up for those departments, and it helps out a lot.
Great, thanks, Matt. Nate, come back to you.
Yeah, so we have an athletic department package that, you know, from the AD, marketing, SID, everyone in the department is going to get that stuff. The president is included in there. The team chaplain that travels around with all our different sports teams. Our athletic training staff has their own money that they spend. They order for the all the team doctors, chiropractors, and everything. So that they match the rest of the sports med staff and all the gear they're getting. And like Matt was saying, like through our BSN contract, again, it counts towards our spend, but we have set up with the bookstore, with Shields, who's a big sporting goods store in town. If they want to get replica jerseys, everything like that, it's all got to go through BSN, count towards our spend. We've also allowed club sports access to our BSN rep. The club's teams each have their own account, but again, they'll help that count towards the athletics department spend under the club sports. But it all has to work through the same reps so that it's all counting towards our spend.
Club sports, that's a good one too, I'm sure. A lot of you guys are dealing with that. Kyle, we'll go to you.
So our team doctors, kind of like Nate, our athletic training department has their own Nike budget and allotment that they take care of those people for. Our AD is a big gear guy, so everything we order through the equipment room, we pull him one for ourselves for him. So he gets every piece of gear that we get in. The only department outside of just athletics that we do for is our corporate relations with the university. It's a guy that does some work with our external affairs AD and has become close with one of our old senior admin as well. So I do some direct ordering. He does some hats and T-shirts, but I do it for him and order it printed, all that stuff, and just give it to him. Besides that, he's about the only one. Our president is an older man, so eventually he'll come and he'll want some polos or t-shirts, but he's pretty laid back and doesn't wear anything but a button up and a vest. So we don't have much to do with him. If he does, he comes to our administrative assistant and she'll come down and pull the gear for him too. So that's about it.
Thanks, Kyle. And Dom, we'll finish up with you.
So for us, every department in athletics has their own budget for Under Armour gear, and then on top of that, I did a department-wide gear package. Historically, here at Wichita State, every single employee has sort of gotten a set amount of allotment and got to pick whatever they wanted from the catalog, which is just as big of a nightmare as it sounds, saying it out loud. So moving forward next year, and I was so fresh, moving forward next year, we're going to switch to, a backpack, a travel suit, a couple t-shirts, and everyone's going to get uniform gear. And then it's up to the sort of the head coaches or director of ops discretion if they want to do extra gear for their team doctors to match them on the sidelines, or if they want to take care of SIDs, so on and so forth. Our AD and our president are also big gear guys, but I know what they like to wear. They won't wear a t-shirt to save their life, but they will wear whatever our head men's basketball coach wears on the sidelines. So I order an extra one of each in their sizes to make sure I can take that up to them and get them what they need before the season starts, so they can match our coach here and there, wear it when he goes on the road together, so on and so forth. So that's how we do things. We also order, for the band, and we're trying to set up some BSN team stores as well to help alleviate a little bit of pressure on us and put it in while going to our team spend.
Great. Thanks, Dom. Yeah, great answers. Very well organized for all 4 of you. Thanks. Appreciate you guys being on, being part of the panel. Before we wrap up, Melly, do you have a few minutes? Do you want to say anything before we wrap up?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I just want to thank everybody, the whole entire panel, for coming on and giving your time and your thoughtful answers and preparing. I really appreciate it. Katie, again, great job. And of course, Uncommon Sports Group for your continued support of the AEMA. All right, I'm going to wake everybody up here. Here we go. Some updates from the National Board. We have 106 people on here. I'm very excited to see all of you. I see we've got people from high school all the way up through every part of the country I'm seeing. So that's really exciting to me. That really warms my heart. I hope everyone's fall's going well. All your equipment checkouts, nobody made any switches, right? We all had perfect equipment checkouts. So that's always the goal every year. And actually, I'm getting all right at it after 34 years. Every year I cut it down a little bit. I hope everyone participated in the Equipment Appreciation Week. If not, we'll do a better job of getting that out, all the information to all of you. It's nice to be appreciated once in a while. This particular topic illustrates how everybody has their hands out, but never does this, right? They just do this. So it's okay to toot our own horns once in a while, come out of our little shells and just grinding it out and slap ourselves on the backs. I encourage it, okay? I'm going to put in a plug for our next convention, which is in Vegas. Vegas convention is always a fun convention, so I hope to see all of you there. Last year was very successful in Atlanta, aside from some things that were happening that were out of our control. But Vegas is going to be wonderful. We had one thing I would like to talk about is the swag that we had last year. It was great for 50th anniversary, and we're going to still do some fun stuff for you all. Certification. There's going to be some online certification opportunities if you are not certified. I'm hoping that very soon, more and more of you are hopping on that certification train. It's really important. It's important to have those letters behind your name, right? EMC, period, comma, C. That it means something. And the reason I talk about that is there have been at least 7 deaths in middle school and high school football this year. 7 this August. That's I think 5 of them were due to heat exhaustion. I think even lacrosse players at the collegiate level have been having some problems with heat exhaustion. And but we're on that team, right, of safety. And 2 died of hits to the head, bleeding out in the brain. 2. That, to me, that's just unacceptable. Things happen. It's a rough sport. Everybody knows. But I think having those letters behind your name is important. And the reason is because we're really very seriously have people's lives in our hands. It may not seem like that. And it might seem like the gear that we're providing for ADs and everybody's got those hands out are important. It is, but really let's not lose sight of what's most important, and that's the student athletes in our care, or athletes in our care. So I wanted to talk about that and call that out. Excuse me, executive director position. The committee is moving forward with all that. We've hired a company, actually Teamworks. They're taking over the world here in athletics. So we also are going to be using them for a search committee. So that's moving forward. We're hoping to have this wrapped up and have someone hired February-ish. I'll put that ish on there. But that's our goal. So this is a big deal for our association. Our first full-time executive director, and they're going to be handed a lot of things to do because there's a lot of things to do. So they're going to be hired to help all of you and help us as members. They're going to be out there, shaking the trees, and hopefully some more money's going to fall out of it for all of us, because I think all of us are underpaid, underappreciated, and overworked. So it's time to kind of step out of the shadows and to start asserting ourselves in a lot of organizations. Little personal shout out, September is Suicide Awareness Month. Feel free to post some stuff about that through your equipment room. We've got a lot of student athletes that have depression, anxiety, and a lot of times they end up in your room and talking to you. So show that you care and post a little something. So that's just a personal plug I thought that we all might want to do to support our athletes. That's all I got. Vegas. If anybody does have any questions about anything, I think we have a lot of district directors on here. They've been sending you out some information about some things. So if you have any questions at any time, always feel free to email me or your district director. We're here for you. Okay. Thank you everybody for coming on. I only lost one since I started speaking. That's good. All
Thanks,
righty.
Donna. All right, everybody, your QR code is up. Get her scanned and make sure you get your CEUs. Have a great month, and we'll see you here soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
One more thing, everyone. I just want to really.
Katie.
Oh, sorry, it's okay. I just really want to plug next month's call. It's equipment at the professional level, and so we reached out and this committee's done a really great job of finding people and at the professional side to help us out. So we've got someone from USA Track and Field. We've got an MLB, NHL, NFL, Major League Soccer. Like, we have someone from everywhere. So it's going to be a really, really good call. And I really just encourage you to bring in your students as well to listen to this call. So even if they're not certified or not a part of it, just have them on the call so they can listen to these experts and hear what is going on at the professional level.
Thanks, Katie. All right. See everybody. Thanks for attending. Thanks, panelists. You guys all get the QR code?
Question.
Yeah.
When I try to put it in, it says check me in, but I'm not sure that it actually checked me in.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
I'll send a note over to make sure you got credit for it. How's that, Kathleen? I'll CC you on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great month.
Okay. You too. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Yep.